I'm Dr. Hannah Yelin of Oxford Brookes University, and here I'll be discussing Grace Jones's ironically titled memoir, I'll Never Write My Memoirs. Now, traditionally, the celebrity memoir occupies a nexus of access and authenticity, as it combines the intimate revelations that are at the centre of celebrity culture with autobiography's promise of self-disclosure of personal truth. As such, their respective scholarly fields have been much concerned with problematising such claims to authenticity. This paper, however, examines Jones's 2015 memoir as an example that contravenes the structuring tendency in both celebrity culture and autobiography to claim to offer up access to an authentic self or show the real woman behind the public image. In this paper, I shall use Jones's autobiographical self-presentation to put forward the idea of doing celebrity, whereby celebrity and pop stardom presented as a deliberately constructed set of actions and behaviours rather than an ontology. So celebrity is something one does, not something one is. Moreover, we shall see that Jones's embrace of performativity over authenticity is something that's situated as being part of a wider art practice, a move which makes claim to the status of creative agent and author of the star image, seeking a level of cultural value otherwise often denied to the figure of the female pop star celebrity. So let's start with a fantastically surreal scene that she narrates in the memoir of being photographed by paparazzi whilst out jogging with the famous artist Andy Warhol. By contrast to celebrities who commonly discuss the paparazzi in terms of violation, Jones says, "I try to put on a little show for them. After all, we were once photographed jogging in Central Park, him in jeans and jacket, me in little Batty Rider shorts. That was a performance. I am aware of the fact that what is being photographed is the fantasy of fame. And for that moment, that is what I am representing. At that moment, I am the centre of fame." End quote. So this quote is both an admission of courting celebrity and a knowing claim to being in on the joke of celebrity culture's performative nature. It takes the media's efforts to capture what Richard Dyer calls the off-screen, that space supposedly offering a glimpse of a more real star, and makes no such claim to authenticity. Rather, her memoir demonstrates a self-reflexive awareness of celebrity as a little show, which she both courts and constructs in apparently candid moments captured by paparazzi, however unlikely the company and the attire. This moment of contrived celebrity she calls a performance and a fantasy, what she is representing rather than what or who she is. A key difference between this framing and the more common framing of a true self revealed is the claim to agency in the construction of the star image. Unlike the usual discourses of paparazzi intrusion and violation, this is a little show that she chooses to construct. Now, on the one hand, Jones's performative jogging with Warhol suggests that celebrity status is something to be actively cultivated. This is what Olivier Dressiens terms celebrity capital, accumulated media visibility which can be converted into other resources such as economic or political capital. However, on the other hand, in Jones's emphasis upon fabrication, we can also see a distancing from, undermining of, and perhaps distaste for celebrity. Consistently, we see Jones seeking to position herself in cultural fields beyond that of the celebrity. Thus, at the same time, celebrity becomes a label to be avoided, lest it diminishes a star's access to cultural value. So this problematises the concept of celebrity capital in a way that accords more with P. David Marshall's account of celebrity, in which it is surrounded by an quote an air of inauthenticity and vulgar sense of notoriety. Now, if we view this question through the lens of gender, as Christine Jarity does, that offers further consideration of why, despite being a form of tradable capital, female celebrities may wish to distance themselves from the cultural field of celebrity. Geraghty argues for the intrinsically gendered nature of the concept of celebrity, given that women are, quote, particularly likely to be seen as celebrities whose working life is of less interest than their personal life. Thus, whilst celebrity can be accumulated and traded for certain forms of capital, celebrity can just as easily be cast as a toxic constituent that damages, in particularly female stars' cultural value, through a delegitimizing emphasis upon the vulgar notoriety of their private lives at the expense of attention upon their creative and cultural work. Thus, in Jones's memoir, we see an ambivalence towards celebrity status and a desire to recenter her cultural work. Now, writing a memoir is necessarily an act of self-canonization, extending, reinforcing, reframing, and capitalizing upon one's existing celebrity status. Yet at the same time, Jones clearly does not wish to be received as merely a celebrity or even as a pop star, and seeks at points to distance herself from the entire phenomenon. Of the milieu surrounding the Studio 54 nightclub, Jones speaks disparagingly of those seeking to increase or maintain their celebrity status. Quote, minor celebrities fighting among minor celebrities to avoid losing their fame, demented role-playing, doing whatever it took to get some attention. So here Jones appears to ascribe to the conservative view of celebrity as bemoaned by Daniel Boorstin 50 years ago for a lack of, quote, greatness, worthy endeavours or talent. It's not just minor celebrities that receive this treatment either. Jones's memoir appears to similarly be seeking distance from major global stars. She says, I was refining my stage show so that it would be more exciting than and a long way from what Gloria or Donna or Sister Sledge would be doing. I was determined not to perform like other singers. She also says, I wasn't really a singer or a dancer, a Jagger or a Tina, though I took things in unusual directions. So, despite there being respected global institutions, a kind of roll call of the best of disco, rock, and soul, Jones's distinctions about her place in relation to other musicians and pop stars are not merely acts of distancing, but of elevation above. So, when Jones claims to take her work in more unusual directions than other established pop stars, she suggests that she is not merely a pop star. Jones performs her superiority through the taste distinctions that she makes, when she identifies amongst her peers, quote, a lot of bad taste in the way female singers were expected to perform, which for Jones predominantly centres upon bad taste in fashion and the tackiness in how pop singers look. So throughout these accounts, we can see at play Bourdieu's theory of distinction and the politics of taste, as Jones distinguishes herself through the distinctions that she makes, clearly situating herself in a hierarchy of cultural value in relation to those she judges as falling short. Moreover, Bourdieu's ideas of the cultural field are illuminating when it comes to Jones's apparent desire to be seen to traverse beyond the categories of celebrity or pop star. For Bourdieu, cultural products and producers are located within hierarchical and relational cultural fields. This he constitutes as, quote, a space of positions and position taking, in which one's social status is negotiated. So Bourdieu's cultural fields are thus made up of possible positions that accord with central values that operate within them. By this account, the star image of Grace Jones will be structured by a particular overlapping set of subfields that constitute the black, female, avant-garde, pop star celebrity, and each of those with an overlapping set of values which delineate the space of possible positions that she can adopt. And what is in evidence in her account is a constant negotiation of access to cultural value. For example, Jones elevates her pop music by presenting herself as able to range over and borrow capital from diverse fields, and thus create music that is more than, not merely, pop music. What Jones calls a stylized border-crossing blending of reggae, electronics, pop, and disco to create new forms of pop in the underground is always described in terms of the multiple fields it traverses. The narration of Jones's life story similarly demonstrates a constant alertness to the intersecting cultural fields over which she ranges, relating key events, places, and people, specifically in terms of the various cultural fields they represent and the various capitals afforded or negotiated as a result. So the city of Paris, for example, is to Jones a quote, complicated weave of art, frivolity, to entertainment, business, sex, illusion. So implicit in this suggestion is that were all her activities in Paris all business or all entertainment, they would be of less value, with associated connotations of mercenary coldness or cheap vacuity, respectively. But as a rhizomatic assemblage of illusion and art, however, it becomes complicated, intriguing, erudite, knowing. Through performance and art, it becomes more than. Now, Jones's self-elevation through the demonstration of an ability to traverse cultural fields is ultimately geared towards the positioning of her pop output as a form of performance art. Indeed, the memoir is billed in the reviews in the opening pages as, quote, a manic coupling of life and art, as that frames the forthcoming action and guides the reader as to the cultural fields in relation to which it should be understood. Jones, the memoir makes clear, wishes to be considered an artist, stating, I was as much a performance artist as I was a pop singer or actress. Crucially, it is not that she is an artist as well as a pop star. Rather, through traversing multiple cultural fields, she constructs an artistic creation of pop stardom. By doing pop stardom as a wider practice informed by a knowledge of high cultural fields, it becomes performance art. Quote, it was as though Marlene Dietrich, Bertolt Brecht, and Piet Mondrian were as important an influence on pop as Elvis, as though music could be connected to art and theatre. It was like the invention of a new genre related to the musical, the opera, to circus, to cinema, to documentary, to the art gallery. End quote. So here Jones situates herself and her work as deserving a place amongst historic creative visionaries of art, theatre, and cinema, claiming as she does so the cultural value associated with such highbrow cultural forms. Moreover, she is cast as a cultural pioneer, creating new genres through her rhizomatic, recombinant approach to the traversability of cultural fields. In accordance with Bourdieu's theorization of cultural fields as fundamentally relational and hierarchical, Jones' casting of her work in the artistic mould is often at the expense of others in the field of pop. She states, I was interested in presenting myself as a singer in a way that broke away from what had very quickly become a very narrow set of traditions. Most pop performance didn't take into account pop art or Warhol's films, a European catwalk or Japanese theatre. End quote. So performing distance from her peers in the field of pop music, she articulates pop music in terms of what it lacks, namely knowledge of higher cultural forms. Instead, readers are asked to view Jones's own work as comparatively, quote, more experimental and almost academic in its pursuit of musical perfection. Jones seeks to access and trade in cultural and symbolic capital associated with higher cultural forms, situating her work at the intersection of fields that are, as Bourdieu suggests, fundamentally relational and comparative. She therefore cannot be seen as seeking a reappraisal or rehabilitation of her existing cultural field. Rather, she could be argued to be throwing other pop stars under the bus as she seeks to escape the cultural field of pop stardom in an act of self-elevation through reframing her work as art. When difficulties do arise in the memoir, it is due to others' inability to recognise her transposition of pop into higher cultural fields. She states of her record label, they misunderstood me. They saw me as representing the world of fashion, still the celebrity model singer, the haywire Studio 54 chanteuse, not someone who was always experimenting with herself and taking responsibility for every detail of her work. Now, it is crucial to acknowledge here that the status of creative agent, of artist, is a highly masculinized position, often denied specifically to female celebrities. What Jones describes as the celebrity model slash singer, the Haywire Studio 54 chanteuse, is a heavily gendered figure, and the associated charges of lack of professionalism and integrity that Jones seeks to distance herself from are equally gendered. Thus, Jones could be seen to be denigrating her fellow women in pop in the process of seeking a higher status for herself. It is significant then that Jones does point out the structural inequalities of music industry sexism. She depicts the struggle to be taken seriously as a woman and an artist, reinforcing Geraghty's reading of celebrity as a gendered and as such limiting cultural category. Jones states, "I was not being a prima donna, I was just trying to concentrate on a technically difficult task while I was being talked to like a silly pop singer who had gotten carried away with her own ego. I was female. Had I been a man, they would have considered I was merely retaining control or professionally fretting about the details." Now, reframing pop stardom as art practice is therefore a means of claiming agency as a woman that is not otherwise afforded. Doing pop stardom as an erudite, self-reflexive, knowing performance about fame and celebrity can transform it into art, affording the traditionally masculinized status of creative agent and author of one's own image. Now, famous pop artist Andy Warhol features heavily in Jones's memoir. At points, this is an anecdote that underscore Jones's own star power, like the paparazzi jogging scene. Moreover, Warhol is brought in as evidence that Jones's pop stardom was indeed a knowing, self-reflexive performance. She says, "Andy would want me to look and act famous." Warhol is presented as actively amplifying Jones's knowing performativity and keeps a dictaphone recording their interactions. Jones reacts to the dictaphone thus: "Maybe I exaggerated a little knowing the tape was on, performed more. But then everything I did was like a performance, so I was his ideal subject." Jones is thus transformed from merely being another sincere Studio 54 celebrity like those who so provoked her ire, to creating a performance about celebrity as befits the ideal subject and muse for one of the most iconic artists of the 20th century. Through Warhol's approval, Jones can present the commercial aspects of her pop career as culturally validated. "And he would never make you feel guilty about selling yourself," she says. Most pertinently to the interest of this paper, Warhol is repeatedly used to underscore stories that suggest the collapsibility of celebrity and performance art. For example, Warhol's studio, The Factory, is the site of production not only of artworks, but of celebrity. Quote, "New York was the center of the artistic universe, and the factory was at the center of the center. And at the center of that was Andy. He created stars." End quote. Now, in service of the idea that the idea of celebrity as art practice, Jones casts Warhol as a star maker for herself and others. When Jones states of Warhol, "He saw that this whole celebrity thing was where everything was happening. He saw which direction the energy was heading. He saw the art in everything." She adds evidence to her own argument that what she did as a pop star, she did as an artist. If, as she says, Andy was obsessed with celebrity and his curiosity about it would infect the whole world, then through art, Jones's pop stardom can be rehabilitated from the delegitimized, vacuous state that Boston, Marshall, and Geraghty identify in the cultural construction of celebrity, and especially female celebrity. Of course, society has long accepted this knowing performance of pop as art from white male creatives. For example, Warhol, or the also frequently mentioned in the memoir alternative pop star David Bowie, are understood as constructing art about celebrity or pop stardom, with much less contestation than female figures such as Jones, her contemporary Madonna, or even more recent female pop artists like Lady Gaga or MIA. As white men with a surfeit in symbolic and cultural capital, Bowie and Warhol already have a far less disputed access to the role of artist, creative agent, or auteur than Jones as a woman of colour. The comparative weight of her endeavour to be taken seriously is an evidence not least in the production of an entire memoir dedicated to the task of reframing her career as an artistic practice over which she had some control. It is hard to imagine Warhol or Bowie ever having to do the same. So, to conclude, memoir is by its very nature an intervention into the discourses that surround a star. Recognising this explicitly, Jones's introduction describes the autobiographical occasion prompting the book to be written thus: "There is no better way for me to take control of the stories of my life than to tell them myself in a book." So between the memoirs pages, a space is created where the meaning of a life's work can be controlled or reframed. And the way Jones's memoir seeks to reframe her career in the limelight is as a self-aware, deliberately constructed of performance art, a reframing that opens up access to the masculinized status of creative agent and artist so often denied to female celebrities. In so doing, Jones elevates herself above the generalized mass of disparaged female celebrity, asking to be considered amongst white male contemporaries whose celebrity goes unchallenged as artistic statement and whose artistic statements use the concept of celebrity as source material. It is not without problems that Jones's acts of self-elevation are fundamentally individual, not collective. She is not looking for a reappraisal of a feminized or unjustly maligned genre, only for herself to be elevated beyond it. In this example, I've put forward the concept of doing celebrity, showing that it is by demonstrating her knowingness about the inherent performativity of celebrity that Jones is able to claim agency beyond that traditionally afforded the female pop star or celebrity. Through doing celebrity, Jones's pop becomes art. She is herself asserted as a creative agent and artist, traversing but not limited to the cultural field of pop. Thank you.